Hey, Kim, you want to watch some TV?
Hey, Caleb, do you want to talk about some TV?
Oh, okay. Hey, friends, welcome to Nonsensicality. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. It's a crazy time. Still, right now, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 or however you want to call it. A lot of people are quarantined. A lot of people are battening down the hatches for possibly another 30 days.
Yes.
And one thing I know that has come of this is tons of binge watching.
Yes.
Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney. I think people are really thankful for the Disney Plus being released this year.
Yes.
I think that really helped with a lot of people.
I've discovered TV shows that I had forgotten about. Like, I'm kind of rewatching shows that I liked but then forgot about, and so it's sort of been fun.
So what makes a TV show forgettable if you liked it, though? That's the question.
Okay. Back in the day, like a long time ago when we watched TV with dinosaurs.
I remember that dinosaur TV show.
Oh, that was terrible.
It was not funny.
Terrible.
I did not enjoy it. A lot of people did, but anyway.
Like, you watched it and then you had to wait a whole other week for an episode.
Yeah, there was no binge watching.
Right. So before streaming, like, I would like a show, but then maybe get busy and forget to pick it back up. So then I'd be so many shows behind and I couldn't catch it up. So that makes me forget. You
know what my generation's binge watching was? You would videotape every episode onto one tape. And then you would play it back, and you'd still have to fast forward the commercials, unless you were really proactive while you were recording and pause during commercials. But then if you weren't careful, you'd forget to unpause when the commercials ended, and you'd cut off the next scene, and you'd be very frustrated. So that was our binge watching, a VHS tape.
He did that for us. He taped Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
And then we could watch them all through the week, and then he'd just tape over it the next week.
Yeah. So you could sleep in, and you didn't have to.
He was like, Netflix before Netflix.
He was your DVR.
Yes.
He was your daddy video recorder.
Daddy video recorder. That's slick.
That was clever, right?
Nicely done.
All right. So, TV was a huge part of, obviously, most of America, growing up is TV's a big part. I'll never forget when our son, he was a toddler. I went to school, or you went to school during the day, you were still in college, and I worked at night.
Yeah.
So it all worked out to where, we didn't have to get a sitter for our son and all that. But during the day, while I was just, hanging out with our son, we would watch Wheel of Fortune. Like, it had a daytime broadcast. Normally it's in the evening, but we would watch Wheel of Fortune, and he'd be sitting in his high chair, and he'd be just calling out letters. Hey! Not knowing, but he loved, and he was like 2 years old, and he would just call out letters and just talk about buying vows.
He's spelling those words.
He was spelling those words. It was hilarious. But that's one of my funniest memories of our son, interacting with TV.
That makes me think of an idea for a podcast later. Strange game shows.
Oh, game shows. That'd be a good one. There's some,
weird
the Japanese have cornered the market on the crazy game shows, but then they brought some to America, like Wipeout and some of those other Brick in the Wall.
Never even heard of that one.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that in another. Crazy game shows. Help us remember, friends, that we're going to do that. Crazy game shows. I like that idea.
Well, I have some failed TV plots.
Failed TV plots. Well, so these are TV, they did a pilot maybe, but it didn't get much further?
They might have done a season, but some of these, they didn't even air the rest of the season. They are that bad.
Wow. Like The Cape. I don't know. You hear about that one in Community. The Cape was one of them.
So these are actually some that I had never heard of, and I was kind of impressed by them.
Now, is mac and cheese on there?
No.
That's one of my favorite plot lines of the Friends franchise is that because those episodes, the mac and cheese remind me of 80s TV. It's just it was crazy, and then every episode ended with a freeze frame of them laughing, ha ha ha.
I know.
And then it would cut to music and all that.
I love that.
That was the trope of the 80s, action or comedy or whatever. They would just cut on add laughter, and it's ridiculous.
Well, I have some that I think might cause some laughter.
All right, and then we'll end it with a ha ha ha, and then we'll freeze it.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so the first one we're going to throw out, this came from NBC. It was from 1965, and it's called My Mother, the Car.
My Mother the Car. Can I try to guess the plot lines just based on the title?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is kind of a Knight Rider type thing. And his mom somehow gets in some sort of accident or incident, but transfers her consciousness either electronically or some sort of, voodoo thing into a car. And then the mom is the car. Am I in any way right?
Sorta. Okay, here's what it says. Okay, so a family man. He's a family man. He's an attorney. He purchases a vintage car, which, unbeknownst to him, is actually his reincarnated, recently deceased mother. And Mother talks to him through the car radio.
I would sell that car. Right. Sorry, Mom. I love my mom. I love talking to her. But I can only imagine it was a nagging mom in the show.
I don't know.
I can only imagine that it's not a great friendship. And then, of course, always nagging about, leaving the to-go cups or whatever in the floorboard.
Can you imagine? You leave a newspaper on the front seat.
Yep. Yeah,
she's coming through that radio. So yeah, My Mother the Car. It didn't do well. Surprisingly.
But then they did a spin-off of that called Knight Rider, and it worked great.
They actually rebooted Knight Rider.
Yeah.
And that didn't do well either, but...
I remember, was Hasselhoff in the reboot?
No. It's a new guy.
You just don't mess with the classics, though. That's the problem.
But it's funny. So speaking of Hasselhoff, so I was reading all these lists of terrible TV shows.
Yeah.
Knight Rider, the reboot, but then also Baywatch. No one seemed to enjoy Baywatch, but it went on forever.
You mean the one with Hasselhoff?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, well, it had its reasons for going on forever.
But I just thought it was funny that he was in, some failed.
He's one of the world's biggest stars. I mean, historically.
I know.
I remember hearing something about him, David Hasselhoff, being
shocking.
And I know he was big in Europe and other countries, and then kind of a joke here in America. But people still,
I liked Knight Rider.
I like Knight Rider.
Dude, I named my bicycle Kit, and I turned my handlebars.
Everybody, yes.
I wanted Knight Rider.
Knight Rider is a big deal.
Okay, so speaking of, people solving things.
Okay.
Cop Rock.
Cop Rock?
Yeah. What is Cop Rock about?
It's a police show, but it's a musical, and they're singing.
Yes!
I remember Cop Rock. That was in the 80s or 90s, wasn't it?
It was 1990. You remember Cop Rock?
I remember hearing about it, and I'm like, this is doomed to fail, and I was correct.
I'd never heard of it. Yeah, it's a crime show, and then they break out into show tunes.
Yeah, I remember.
With dance numbers.
Yes.
But it's a cop show. They're solving, who done it?
It's two things that should never go. They were oil and vinegar from the start. They were not meant to go together.
I laughed so
Cop
hard.
Rock. I remember hearing Cop Rock. Yes. Yes. Dumb.
But Randy Newman did all the score and wrote all the songs.
See, they had high hopes for her. I mean, they got Randy Newman.
Stephen Bochco, the guy that did Hill Street Blues and all these famous
right.
cop shows. It had some pretty big talent behind it, but
it doesn't matter. Sometimes
America was not ready for the crime show.
I bet if they bust that back out again, that it would probably be successful. With Glee and all those other things that are bigger. Not that I ever got into Glee. I mean, there may be some people that are into it. I've not seen one episode, and I'm proud to say that, and I never will plan on it unless, I get abducted and they force me to watch it or something. Musical TV isn't something I'm into unless it's a satire or, kind of if certain genre, like a sitcom does it. Like Community, they've done some musicals.
Okay.
It's funny, but I'm not into musicals on a constant. There's that one now where that woman... It's about her playlist or something, but everybody. It's a current one. Yeah, and so that's currently going on right now, and it's kind of a satire because she's freaking out that everybody busts out in the song. But
yeah,
I don't even know what it's called. Someone's infinite playlist or something. I don't know.
Something.
All
okay,
right.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeifer.
The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeifer.
If you get this, I'm going to be overwhelmed and shocked.
Well, it's about a guy named Desmond Pfeifer who had a secret diary. I win.
No.
Other than the title, I'm guessing the secret diary, he was a man that he seemed to live a normal life, but then he was also a spy. That's what I'm going with.
Okay, you're incorrect on all counts.
Oh!
Except for he was a man.
Okay,
you're right.
Desmond is a guy's name typically, but you never know. Okay.
So it's set in slavery pre-Civil War America.
Okay.
And so basically here's the plot. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeifer focuses around a black English nobleman
Okay.
who has to flee England due to gambling debts and becomes the butler to President Abraham Lincoln.
Does he kind of like steer the course of history to help Lincoln make the right choices or something? Or is it?
I just stopped reading after fleeing England for gambling debts to become I just can't imagine how you could make that time period light and funny.
Right. Was it supposed to be a comedy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's problematic from the go. Yeah.
And then the White House was not portrayed in a delightful manner. And
they probably made Lincoln not look smart. It's
so
probably because his butler helped him. Yeah, I can see why that wouldn't. There's just too much edginess on all that. I think it was probably best that it didn't survive.
So I got another one for you.
Okay,
that shouldn't survive. Homeboys in Outer Space.
That sounds fun. That sounds like a webisode type thing. That sounds like it would be great on YouTube or something, and they could have a lot of fun with it.
So there are two homeboy astronauts, and
hence the title.
Yeah, they traveled the universe in a spaceship named the Space Hoopty.
Space Hoopty.
Which is a cross between a lowrider and an 18-wheeler.
But it goes into space.
It's the Space Hoopty.
Okay.
And it was piloted by a talking computer named Laquita.
That's my aunt's name.
Well, I think it's Laquita. I mean, how do you pronounce that word right there? Laquita, right? LaQuasha?
Oh, I don't know. That's not how my Aunt Laquita spelled her name.
Well, Anyway, the computer talked, and it was a Space Hoopty, and they're homeboys in outer space.
See, that just sounds like something that would be really popular on the internet, like on YouTube. That sounds like it would be.
Well, I'm sure you could go to YouTube.
Does it get? You didn't look at any like certain episode plots or anything?
No.
That's so funny.
No, I couldn't get past the homeboys in outer space.
I'd be into that one. I'd watch
Seriously?
that. I think I'd give it a go. I'd want to. You know me. I'm into the kind of weird. I would be
frustrated before the opening credits were done. I think I'd have to walk away.
Really?
I don't know that I could get.
It would have to make fun of itself a lot more than it sounds like. That was the intention. Is it kind of makes fun of itself a little more than it does?
How do you get a space hoopty in outer space?
Well, you launch it somehow.
But it's a lowrider cross with an 18-wheeler.
Right. Yeah. It was a very smooth launch track or something.
Okay. So they have made TV shows we've already talked about on ridiculous things. There's the cop musical.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, did you know that they made TV shows based off of commercials? Like there was a commercial that was really funny. They thought, we'll take the characters in the commercial.
I want to say I have.
And they made it into a 30-minute TV show.
No, but I could totally see them doing that with the Sonic guys. I could see that happening, like the Sonic guys. They, having their own show and their own adventure. I know they did a ton with Saturday Night Live characters.
No, none of this is just a commercial for a product.
Man, I don't know.
Okay, let me help you.
I know
the cavemen on the Geico commercial?
Yes, I do remember that.
They made a TV show.
It didn't last long at all.
No, it failed.
Did they get
miserably
resurrected in modern times kind of thing?
They're trying to navigate life in modern day. I think they were in San Diego. But
it should be so easy that a caveman can do it.
Well, this show wasn't.
No. I remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
Okay, they've also made a TV show based on a Twitter feed.
Really?
So some guy had this Twitter. So he could, ridiculous things his dad says. In fact, it was called Bleep My Dad, Bleeps. Bleep My Dad Says. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's
stuff my dad says.
Stuff my dad says.
There you go.
And so he would tweet ridiculous things that his dad says. Well, people found this feed and thought it was so funny that they made a TV show starring William Shatner.
Oh my goodness.
And
and he was the dad?
Yeah, it did terribly.
It's funny because we make fun of these, like several of these you've listed. We're like, that's doomed to fail. And then sometimes they're like huge successes, even with that same formula. And that's probably why. Like, think about this: an alien crash lands in your living room, and he's a puppet, a fuzzy puppet.
Yeah, I don't
that is
Alf
snarky and makes fun of eating cats all the time. Alf lasted several seasons.
I don't get it.
People loved it. I loved it. I watched it every week. I loved Alf, and I would imitate him, and Willie, all that. I know, right?
Wow.
But it had the same formula as all these failures, but it was a huge success, probably because of good writing. But yeah, I mean, you got to think about that. Alf was one of those that would have been, most people would have said that is going to be in the garbage bin, and it's not going to work. And it worked really well.
Well, the funny thing is
in its time period, it wouldn't have done well today, I don't think.
Right. I mean, but you have to think about this. The Caveman Show and the stuff my dad says.
Right.
Like, they're taking these 30-second, 140 characters and trying to stretch it into, like, some things are just snapshots. It should not be, like
no.
that.
They're Quibbies.
They're Quibbies.
Now, they might do great on Quibi.
Yes, they might.
Because now that's the new thing, 10-minute video episodes. And I've not gotten into Quibi. I don't plan on doing it. You can get it for 90 days for free.
Whoa.
Right now. So this episode brought to you by Quibi. Quibi, throw me some money.
I wish.
But it's just interesting how, like you were just saying, it's a snapshot kind of thing, commercials. And now TV is tending to gear more towards that. Anyway, where their attention span is like 10 minutes, so let's make the episode 10 minutes long. Can you imagine like a heist episode or something, like a TV show? Because some of these look like spy shows, and some of them, I get it, a comedy thing, you can do something. But if it's like an elaborate plan to break into, a vault in
rob
Europe
a vault
somewhere.
in 10 minutes.
No.
Can't do it.
I mean, I don't know. It's probably a lot of little cliffhangers. It's like 3 episodes actually, and they just cut it up into 10-minute sections, anyway. All
right, here you go. Here's another one for you. It's called Manimal.
Manimal? Well, aren't we all?
No. Come on, you're good at this. It's called Manimal.
Well, it's about a person who's half man and half animal. His DNA has been infused with other animals, and so he's adapted some of their powers.
Okay.
Like being able to climb a tree really fast, or being able to run really fast. Maybe it's as strong as a bull. I don't know.
Cool.
Strong like bull.
I think your show might be better than this show.
What is Manimal?
So it's centered around a British professor, Dr. Jonathan Chase.
Yeah. Who
could shapeshift into any animal. And, that's fine. But
I think I remember. This is not too long ago, I don't think.
But, it sounds cool, but then they also made him solve crimes as he's anamorphing into different animals.
Sure. You're the perfect crime solving. But they already did that with the Super Friends. You had the Wonder Twins, and is it Zach and Jana or something like that?
I don't know.
I'm ashamed I don't remember their name.
You should be.
But anyway, they were the Wonder Twins, and they could turn into animals. And
could they solve crimes?
Well, they were defeating Lex Luthor.
Were they British?
They they were out of space. They were aliens.
Did they come in the space hoopty?
No, they did not come in the space hoopty. So
I just like saying the
you said space hoopty. We need to do just a little montage of you saying space hoopty for the entire episode. No, that's.
But yeah, so
I can remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, all in all, it wasn't like a terrible concept, but I think the fact that he was solving crimes and. Okay, now this one just the title alone.
Okay,
I think would have got sent back to the producers to rework. This is called The Ugliest Girl in Town.
The Ugliest Girl in Town.
Yep.
They did resend it back, and then they turned it out to be Ugly Betty. But isn't there a show called Ugly Betty? I never saw it.
I think so.
It was one of those where I think they took a pretty girl and they made her ugly for the show, and then eventually over time made her prettier. I think
so.
But anyway, The Ugliest Girl in Town. I mean, it just sounds like they reworked it.
It's from the 60s. It's 68, 69.
They reworked it. Ugly Betty.
So, okay. So it was on ABC, and this is how it's pitched. It's based on a man named Timothy after a mix-up. A zany mix-up.
Zany. Because most shows in the 60s were zany.
It's Timothy is mistaken for a woman. And
a very ugly woman, apparently.
And offered a job at a modeling agency. Now, from here, Timothy...
Didn't Ugly Betty work at a modeling agency?
I don't know.
Pretty sure. Anyway,
I know nothing about Ugly Betty.
I just remember she worked around pretty women, too.
Great.
Okay.
That does nothing.
I'm not
for Timothy.
helping Ugly Betty at all.
No.
Nor you.
You're not selling it either way. So he's offered a job at a modeling agency.
As a model or just to help?
They think he's a woman.
But I know, but is he offered a job as a model?
Yes, they think he's a woman.
Wow.
So from here, Timothy has named himself Timmy, and he has to keep pretending to be a woman to pay back a loan.
This sounds like Bosom Buddies.
There's actually another show called Work It, where these two men had to dress up as women and stay dressed up as women because the job market was so terrible for men, but women had lots of employment, apparently.
Okay. That just reminded me, Tom Hanks got his start with basically that plot line, Bosom Buddies. Remember that one?
I do remember that one, and that was terrible.
Again, there's all these shows, you're like, how did they ever work? And yet, you know, they did somehow. I mean, Tom Hanks was a good actor, so that helped. But there's a lot of shows out there, especially in the 80s. The 80s, late 70s, and into the early 90s. And you're just like, how would this work? Like, think about like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. If it was not Will Smith in that, do you think it would have worked well? I don't think it would have.
I don't know. I liked the Fresh Prince.
I did, but Will Smith helped it. I mean, I think some of these shows, it's just like, because, okay, how about Perfect Strangers? You remember that one?
I so disliked Perfect Strangers.
And my family loved it. We watched all that with Balky and the Happy Dance and all that.
I think the 80s has set in stone and cemented my stupid humor. I'm anti-stupid humor because every show was stupid humor.
Yeah.
Alf and Perfect Strangers, and then there was the I didn't enjoy so many of like.
There were so many good ones though. We watched them all. We watched them.
Mork and Mindy, I hated.
Mork and Mindy,
I hated Mork and Mindy.
What about like MASH? It was hugely successful. It was 70s and 80s, and then they tried to do After MASH, and it didn't work.
Yeah, that was also on the list
because the setting needed to be. You know, the Korean War. And once they got out of that and tried to get in there, you know.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the whole Joey thing after Friends.
I enjoyed MASH.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the stupid humor, it just grated on me like nails on a chalkboard. I hated it so much.
Like Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
I love it. You know, that's funny. The spinoffs, you know, they're a gamble. Like very few spinoffs were really good, except for the Happy Days spinoffs. All, for the most part, were really good. Can you name the 3 spinoffs of Happy Days?
Okay, so there was Mork and Mindy.
Yep.
Joni Loves Chachi.
Yep. It was the most successful one. Well, maybe besides Mork and Mindy. It was another Someone and Someone.
Joni Loves Chachi.
Oh my goodness.
Mork and Mindy.
Oh, you're going to be so upset with yourself.
Probably. Okay, time out. It's not an obvious one, right?
Oh, it's very obvious.
Oh.
It was, again, just as popular as Happy Days. Possibly the most popular of all.
How long did it run?
I don't know. Several seasons.
No way.
You're gonna think, oh, I'm such a schlemiel. I can't believe I didn't get this.
Laverne and Shirley!
You're welcome for the hint.
Thank you. Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah. So that one, I mean, like Happy Days had a lot of good spinoffs, but the
I remember when we argued about the theme song for Laverne and Shirley, and it was like one of the only things I've ever gotten right.
Wow, I can't believe you're just saying that for everybody to hear that was the one thing in our relationship.
Well, I'm wrong a lot.
23 years.
I'm wrong a lot.
Okay.
But I was so right.
Hasenpfeffer.
Hasenpfeffer!
Never even heard of Hasenpfeffer, which is like a rabbit stew, basically.
Yeah, it's German.
But they go schlemiel, schlemazel.
Hasenpfeffer Incorporated. And you thought I was making up words?
I didn't know the word. I could not ever figure out what they were saying. And it's obviously a bunch of gibberish.
Hasenpfeffer!
But yeah, you were correct with the Hasenpfeffer. And you milked that for a long time.
I'm still milking it occasionally.
But like I said, I wasn't like wrong because I couldn't figure it out. But I just didn't think Hasenpfeffer was a word. I was a lot younger then. This was probably 20. We were like barely married whenever we got into this thing. But yeah.
But it's a milestone for me.
Yes, very.
It's a milestone.
I love that. But so sometimes you can have some ridiculous ideas that work.
Yeah.
Sometimes spin-offs work, but most of the time they're a big gamble.
But there's sometimes that things work in certain contexts, like Mr. Ed with the talking horse. Or, Look Who's Talking, the movie about the talking baby.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, but sometimes...
But the more sequels they added to that, the less... Although the Look Who's Talking Now, the dogs were talking, and that was funny again, I guess.
But you have a TV show called Baby Bob.
I'm sorry, Baby Bob.
Baby Bob.
I've heard of Boss Baby, where the baby, he's a secret agent.
Nope. This is a live-action, real humans called Baby Bob. And it was from CBS... And the parents realized suddenly that their 6-month-old baby could fully talk like an adult.
I remember this. This was right about the time in probably the 90s or early 2000s, whenever they were able to do lip motion on babies. And it was based on a commercial, too, because there were commercials about that at first. Not necessarily based on the commercial, but the same technology and all that.
Yeah.
I remember Baby Bob.
So, yeah.
And he was really snarky and kind of,
Yeah, he had an adult voice. Yeah. They moved his mouth. Yeah. It didn't go well.
Again, that was a commercial. It wasn't that commercial, but it was based off of a commercial idea.
Didn't go well.
And it didn't go well. That's funny. I remember Baby Bob.
People were not ready. Like, the Rugrats, totally great. You know,
it's a cartoon.
let the babies talk. If you animate them, but you put an adult voice on a real baby.
Yeah.
No, it messes with people.
There's this thing called Uncanny Valley that messes. Whenever something tries to look really human and it doesn't look, this is your science for the day, people. It's a psychological thing that happens. Uncanny Valley. So if you're watching, like the Star Wars Rogue One, when they're building the Death Star, and you see Grand Moff Tarkin. And they're like, I know that's not really him. Something looks wrong with him, besides the fact that he's been dead for a few years, the guy who played him. Because even though he looks really realistic, he didn't look quite right. And then that sends off little sensors in your mind, and that's called the Uncanny Valley, which my son's big on talking about. He loves something. But anytime they try to make something look human or human-ish, it messes with your mind. Like the movie Cats, that bothered people because
I really want to see that.
Oh, I heard it tanked. I heard again. That was one of those that if we were doing movies instead of TV shows, that would have probably been on there. I
have a final one. I found one more. This one's a treat.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, here's the premise, and you just tell me what you think of it. It's an ensemble comedy about 6 survivors of a nuclear accident.
I'm sorry, of a what kind of accident?
Nuclear.
There you go. Sounded like nuclear for a second.
Nuclear. Accident. Stop. Anyway, this was in
6 survivors of a nuclear accident.
1992-93 for the TV schedule.
Okay.
It was set in the aftermath of an accidental global nuclear war. Started when 2 boys playing with a toy at a parade accidentally set off a nuclear missile. It's called Whoops.
Whoops.
No kidding.
And
it
there
was
were only
on Fox.
6 survivors.
Yeah, they all kind of converged randomly at a farmhouse, and hijinks or hilarity or, ensemble comedy would ensue.
Nothing's just funny like, being the only last few survivors on, which were we watched the first few episodes of Last Man on Earth last night, and it was, kind of a similar premise.
But, I mean, I don't even understand how 2 boys playing with a toy at a parade could accidentally set off a global missile that would destroy the world.
Yeah, why are they having nuclear remote controls or whatever?
I don't know.
At a parade.
Don't know.
Near where kids, yeah. I think they need to button up some of those, loose ends and some of those issues before they go on. I mean, you can have fun with the whole, usually if it's like the last few people on Earth, it's more scary, it's more dark, it's more.
But they named it Whoops, so that just covers it all.
Whoops.
Whoops, we made this show.
It's funny, it was by what, Fox?
Fox.
And it was about 6 survivors.
Yeah.
During the era that Friends was really popular. You think they're trying to cash in on some of that Friends traction there? Because Friends started out actually Friends would have been after that, right? It was 94, 95. So this is before Friends. Wow.
Okay, sorry, just kidding. Now I have one more.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I keep finding things.
Okay.
So this TV show failed, obviously, but before it was aired, ABC showed a disclaimer that said, what you're about to see is illegal.
Okay.
So there was a warning before the show. It did not do well. It's called I Married Dora. And the disclaimer was necessary because the man in the show was a widower who married his housekeeper to keep her from being deported, which is illegal.
Right. I mean, it happens a lot, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so like, if why give out the idea? Hey, don't do this, but here's a show about doing it. Ha ha ha.
Well, it's kind of like that's where hijinks come in. Hijinks is you doing something you shouldn't be doing. That's like the definition of hijinks.
I think hijinks, sent the show to the chopping block, and it didn't work. So anyway, failed TV plots.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. It's funny because we watch shows and we're like, I don't see how this is on the air right now. And yet you think about what they got rid of, like all the garbage they got rid of before we get what we have now. And we're still can't find anything to watch.
Well, and what I didn't, like I read into some of this and I left it out, but reality shows. That could be a completely different podcast.
I'm not a fan of any kind of, like reality shows I'm not a fan of at all. But
there's this one reality show that I read about. It was this guy, he was into steampunk and he was very thin, not classically handsome, not handsome at all.
Not classically. He's kind of a new wave handsome.
He's way handsome before his time because in our time it's not handsome yet.
Right.
But it was like he was helping men win women over. And
he was a steampunk guy that's not good looking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know that anyone would go to this particular gentleman and say, hey, you seem to have some skills that I'm lacking. Please teach me your ways.
Please teach me how to glue gears on a hat.
I mean, I think the only way that would make sense is if he walked out of the space hoopty accompanied with, My Mother the Car and The Ugliest Girl in Town. That's funny. Think if you mashed it all together, it could have worked.
That's true. Another thing that doesn't work very well, for the most part, but it only worked once that I can remember, is taking British comedy, which is among my favorite. I love British comedy.
Me too.
And bringing it to America and trying it in America.
It doesn't translate.
The only time it did better was The Office. The Office was great, but they did like one of my favorites, IT Crowd, funny British comedy, but they tried to do it in America and it was like, nope, no good. No. And like it even had Joe McHale in it. So it had a pretty big name. And it still didn't
do it.
But that happens a lot when they try to bring something into like American, from the UK. There's two different kinds of comedy and they need to be separate. And you can enjoy the British comedy by itself. You don't have to bring it to America and try it in an American setting. The Office being a huge exception because the cast was really great, I would say.
Yes.
I think they did a great job.
I liked The Office.
Anyway, that's fun. Thank you for all that edutainment. We appreciate that. Hey, a shout out to Goose who gave us this idea.
What's up,
Goose? Thanks for the idea. If you have any ideas, of course, reach out to us on social media at Camptown Media or go to our website, camptownmedia.com. You can connect with us that way. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And maybe you have some failed TV shows that you think are hilarious or
you could do like a part 45 of, I think, all the terrible TV shows.
Or you could do a part of just shows that are currently really popular and they shouldn't be. And there's a lot of those out there. Some of them people are like talking about, I'm like, oh, why are people enjoying this?
Or the TV shows that are going along great and everyone's into it. And then they throw in a weird plot line or something and everyone's like,
jump the shark.
What?
Jump the shark. What's that from?
That's from Happy Days.
That's a Happy Days
when Fonzie actually jumps
the shark. Because their ratings are starting to drop and they knew they needed to do something. But instead, their spinoffs did better in Happy Days. But, that's the thing. There's some that like Lie to Me. We loved Lie to Me and it just ended.
I know.
And we were so bothered by that. And I liked Jericho. That was great. And it at least wrapped itself up enough. But I was watching Jericho. It was awesome. You remember that? You didn't watch it with me, but it was about a little town that there was a nuke that had gone off in Denver and several other places in the world. Kind of another, apocalyptic type.
Nice.
And they're trying to figure out what to do. And they basically figure out what happened. But and then there were some shows that were doing great. And then when they decided to wrap it up, did horribly, like Lost. And like that was one of the biggest disappointments in finale. Yes. We could do that. We could do an entire show on that. Oh my goodness. I loved Lost until the last season. And I was just like, this is dumb. But
it's like they just started throwing darts at ideas.
Well, and they started throwing a lot of different things out there to try to I think they're misdirects, and then they didn't wrap any of it up. They're just like, they were in purgatory. It's great. Essentially, that's kind of what it was.
It's like a 5-year-old finished it.
Oh, yeah. It was just very, like they threw a dart at different plot lines, and this is what we decided to go with. But anyway, well, thank you for listening. That's all the time. And be sure to catch our spinoff episode, Nonsensical.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. That's the best I could do.
That's where Caleb arrives in a space hoopty.
And it's me and Pippin talking, and I'll have someone voice Pippin, and it'll be great. me and the dog talking on our space hoopty.